Biden gave, but I didn't. Trump once again boasts about making money off war in Ukraine. EU to announce decision on confiscating frozen Russian assets within next 2 weeks. And how Ukrainian drones leave major Russian gas terminal in Temryuk burning for 3 days. The latest news next. Yes, President Donald Trump once again boasted that he is making money from the war in Ukraine through the Pearl program. He also took a jab at his predecessor Joe Biden, whom he accused of spending too much on Kiev. Trump contrasted his approach to Ukraine with that of Joe Biden, claiming that the previous administration provided Kiev with hundreds of billions of dollars, while he insists he is not giving Ukraine direct funding. He recalled providing Javelin missiles at the beginning of his term and criticized the Obama administration for supplying non-lethal aid. He described the situation as good from the perspective of negotiations, but pointed to the ongoing human cost of the war, saying he wants the casualties to stop. He also cited casualty figures for the past month, asserting that tens of thousands of soldiers on both sides had been killed. Trump further emphasized that the United States sells weapons to NATO countries at full price, after which NATO members transfer them to Ukraine. According to him, Washington is not spending money directly, but is instead contributing time and effort for what he described as humanitarian purposes. He reiterated that most NATO members procure US weapons for Ukraine through the Pearl mechanism, to which Austria and New Zealand have recently joined. It is shocking to witness a sitting US president treat an ongoing war as an opportunity for personal gain and political posturing, boasting about profits and maneuvering as if human lives and national struggles were secondary, demonstrates an extraordinary level of cynicism. Leadership at this moment demands responsibility, strategic foresight, and moral clarity, but here those qualities are replaced by calculation, self-interest, and opportunism. This is not strategy, it is the commodification of war, treating decisions of immense consequence as leverage, as talking points, or as a way to boost one's image reduces the gravity of the presidency to transactions and optics. It signals a dangerous detachment from the seriousness of the office and the responsibilities that come with it. History rarely forgives leaders who prioritize personal or political advantage over principled judgment, and this approach will be judged harshly. Even more alarming is the casual confidence with which it is presented, the pride in winning in abstract terms, as if maneuvering around human stakes is a form of accomplishment. This is pure cynicism, the prioritization of self-interest, image, and advantage over foresight, ethics, and the gravity of wartime leadership. In moments when courage, judgment, and integrity are needed most, such rhetoric exposes a profound moral void. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is facing increasing pressure from the United States, which is pushing him to agree to territorial losses and other concessions as part of a peace plan, according to Axios. According to the outlet, after weeks of negotiations, Ukrainian representatives still believe that several elements of the current US plan favor Moscow, and that Washington is placing far more pressure on Zelensky than on Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin. An unnamed US official denied this, saying the United States is also pressuring Putin to soften his demands. Key points of plan and changes after Moscow meeting. The outlet notes that negotiations have centered on two issues: Russia's demand that Ukraine give up all of Donbass, including areas not controlled by Russian forces, Ukrainians' request for reliable US security guarantees to prevent future Russian aggression. According to a Ukrainian official, the US proposal wasn't for Kiev after Trump advisors Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner held a 5-hour meeting with Putin on the 2nd of December. US wanted Zelensky to agree to concession directly over phone. On Saturday, the 6th of December, after 3 days of negotiations between Zelensky, his advisors, and Witkoff and Kushner, a phone call took place. A source cited by Axios said Trump's advisors appeared to want a clear yes from Zelensky during the 2-hour call as they presented the plan. The Ukrainian official said, "It felt like the yes was trying to sell us in different ways. The Russian desired to take the whole of Donbass and that the Americans wanted Zelensky to accept all of it in the phone call." Zelensky, for his part, said during the call that he had received the yes proposal only an hour earlier and had not yet read it. Zelensky, for his part, said during the call that he had received the yes proposal only an hour earlier and had not yet read it. This explains the yes president's negative reaction last night to Zelensky not reviewing the plan. However, a yes official called this strange, saying the updated proposal had been delivered the previous day. The Ukrainian official clarified that some documents had indeed been provided earlier, but others arrived shortly before the call. He noted that the yes proposal included tougher conditions than earlier versions, particularly regarding territory and control of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Moreover, the proposal left key questions about security guarantees unanswered.
There are major things about territory which need to be discussed more. Who controls what? Who stays where? Who withdraws? And if Ukraine withdraws from the contact line, how to make sure that Russia does the same and doesn't continue with the fighting.
At the same time, the Ukrainian official said the yes side seemed to expect Zelensky to simply agree during the call. Axios adds that US officials stressed that Ukraine significantly influenced the current draft and that Kushner and Witkov also pressured Putin to accept certain Ukrainian demands. However, the entire episode reflects the simmering mistrust between the Zelensky and Trump administrations despite the many hours their teams have spent negotiating, the outlet writes. US attempts to distance Zelensky from European leaders. US and Ukrainian officials say that Trump administration viewed Zelensky's meeting in London as an attempt to buy time in negotiations on the peace plan. According to Ukrainian officials, they believe the United States is trying to distance Zelensky from European leaders to pressure him more effectively. Zelensky cannot make such radical decisions without consulting his key allies in Europe, a Ukrainian official explained. He added that while the Trump administration is pressing Zelensky for quick action, European leaders advise caution and patience. This dynamic frustrates some people in the White House who see Europeans as the main obstacle to a deal, the publication notes. European Union member states will announce their decision on the confiscation of frozen Russian assets as early as this week or next, according to The Times. The Times reports that UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer believes an agreement on confiscating up to £100 billion in frozen Russian assets held in Europe to support Ukraine could be reached within days, noting that negotiations on ending the war have entered a critical phase. According to the outlet, Starmer met on Monday with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, French President Emmanuel Macron, and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz to discuss US peace proposals. In addition to diplomatic issues, the leaders also focused on the possible confiscation of Russian funds frozen in European banks. These assets could be used either to finance Ukrainians' ongoing defense or to support post-war reconstruction once a peace agreement is reached. Government sources cited by The Times expressed optimism that a deal is close and may be announced this week or next. The discussion includes roughly £1 billion held in accounts in the United Kingdom. The newspaper notes that this potential funding is seen as a major leverage tool for Europe and Ukraine in peace talks being led by US President Donald Trump. Access to the assets would provide Ukraine with a stable financial base for at least 2 more years of defense efforts, increasing pressure on Moscow at a time when European leaders worry about Vladimir Putin gaining an advantage. The assets are also viewed as one of the few instruments available to prevent any attempt by Washington to impose an unfavorable agreement on Kiev. Belgium, where the majority of frozen Russian assets are concentrated, continues to block the decision. The Belgian government argues that transferring the funds could expose the country to legal liabilities amounting to roughly one-third of its annual GDP. Despite this, UK officials remain confident that a breakthrough is possible. Following the meeting between the leaders of the UK, Ukraine, France and Germany, sources said the parties discussed positive progress on using frozen Russian sovereign assets to support Ukrainians' reconstruction. The Alpha Special Operations Center of the Security Service of Ukraine used drones to disable a liquefied gas transshipment terminal in the Temryuk port in Russia's Krasnodar region, according to RBC Ukraine sources in SBU. It is noted that the strike targeted facilities belonging to Nafta LLC, which burned for 3 days. As a result of the strikes, a massive fire broke out in the tank storage area. More than 20,200 cubic meter tanks caught fire out of the 30 located there. SB drones also destroyed railway tankers, an intermediate refueling container, and a loading-unloading overpass. The total area of the fire reached around 3,000 square meters. Nafta handles the transshipment of liquefied gas from rail cars and tank containers onto specialized gas carrier vessels. The terminal was built in 2008 and designed to handle 400,000 tons of liquefied gas per year. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Support Ukraine, like and subscribe.